Well, it is good to be with you. And if you are just tuning into the message, I encourage you to go back to the beginning of the full service to hear the introduction to this message. So let's begin. I want to start with just a really basic question for you. Did you ever have a time in your life when you felt fully alive? When you looked at life and it seemed new and it seemed fresh and it seemed fascinating, and you were learning things and trying things and you were experimental about life itself, and you thought the sky is the limit. It was exciting and it was hopeful, and life felt like an adventure. Well, I have, and for a lot of people, including myself, it happens when you're like in your mid-20s and you're trying to figure out who you are. And so you actually have a wide range of friends with a wide range of experiences, and you're trying new things. And I've seen this in other people too. I remember looking at my younger brother and sister-in-laws when they had just gotten out of college, and they were painting and they were making music and photography and baking, and they had no money, but they were full of life and they were really happy because their focus was on who they could become and what they could do, and just trying to learn about this amazing world, and not acting like they had all the answers, but acting more like students of life. And I had that experience myself as well, and it was awesome. Did you? Did you ever have that experience in your life where you don't mind looking like a fool because you're so interested in learning, and you don't mind uncertainty because uncertainty is required if you're going to learn anything new? And so on top of that basic stance of life, then if you go on to actually discover God and get a glimpse of how great and big God is, man, you're walking around like believing anything could happen at any time, because it can. You're believing in the power of miracles, and you're looking for them because they happen. But here's the thing, if I'm honest, lately, and I don't know if it's because of my age or the pandemic or the coronavirus or all the division in our country or the choices I've made or the habits I've developed, I don't live that way anymore. I've settled, maybe even gotten stuck. I've settled for comfort. It's like I'm more interested in getting comfort from the world than acting upon the world. More interested in getting comfort from God than encountering God and being used by God in this world. And the truth is, you guys, I don't like it. I've become too passive, too focused on trying to feel good. Can you relate to this feeling of being stuck? Can you relate to this sense that I have of, I'm really kind of choosing comfort and certainty over growth and real revelation from God? It's almost like if somebody came to you and goes, hey, do you want to go out and go skiing? And you're like, no, I'm good. And then you just scroll your phone instead. You know, like, oh no, I might be uncomfortable. It's not worth it. Like, it's not worth it to live life. And it's that way in all realms, including my relationship with God. And I don't like it, and I feel restless, and I'm passing the time, and I'm disgusted, especially this week, with the lies and the grasping and the pontificating, not just in the world around me, but in me. I don't like it. It's very sobering. But over Christmas break, some of you know I'm a big fan of Pascal. Well, I continued to read him, and he had the same problem, and he was brutally honest with himself. And I also have been reading a book that I want to quote to you right now. And let's see, do I have it? All right, here it is. Sorry, I misplaced it. So, I want to read to you a quote from a book, and I want you to kind of guess as best you can when this book was written. People submerged in a culture swarming with lies and malice feel as if they're drowning in it. They can trust nothing they hear, depend on no one they meet. Such dissatisfaction with the world as it is preparation for traveling in the way of Christian discipleship. The dissatisfaction, coupled with a longing for peace and for truth, can set us on a pilgrim path of wholeness in God. But a person has to be thoroughly disgusted with the way things are to find the motivation to set out on the Christian way. As long as we think the next election might eliminate crime and establish justice, or that another scientific breakthrough might save the environment, or that another pay raise might push us over the edge of anxiety into a life of tranquility, we are not likely to risk the arduous uncertainties of the life of faith. A person has to get fed up with the ways of the world before she acquires an appetite for the world of grace. Man, does that sound like it was just written this year? It was written in 1980 by Eugene Peterson. 41 years ago, this book, A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. Man, this book is going to be one of the cornerstones of this series. Wasn't it prophetic? Listen to it again. Peterson says, a person has to be thoroughly disgusted with the way things are to find the motivation to set out on the Christian way. So set out implies that there is a journey. That Christian discipleship is about a journey. And it's not necessarily an easy one. He says, otherwise, we are not likely to risk the arduous uncertainties of the life of faith. So in a weird way, to me, this is actually good news. It's actually good news because it might be that my disgust and discomfort and dissatisfaction might actually push me to get up and do something I need to do, to live a different way of living for this new year. Again, this time of year, snowboarding, skiing, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, walking through the snow. It can be hard and cold and wet and miserable, but man, is it worth it. That is a beautiful analogy for the Christian life. And notice he uses the word uncertainties when talking about faith. And you might say, well, I thought Christianity was all about being certain. Well, if God is big enough to take you where you have not been before, you will be, by definition, uncertain because you've never been there before. So here's the question I've been asking myself over the Christmas break. What would it be like to be brutally honest with myself and with God about why I do the things I do and why I think the things I think? Am I really willing to let go of convenient and comfortable lies? Really? Am I really? Am I willing to see myself as I really am and to see God as God really is? Are you? Are you willing to really try to be brutally honest with yourself? To say, I'd rather grow and learn than be comfortable and passive. So if this journey is really going to be so hard and miserable and uncomfortable, why in the world would we want to take it? Because as Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. Self-knowledge is like taking a blindfold off. You have a much better chance of success if you can actually see where you're going, and if you can actually see what real impact you're having on the world, rather than just stomping through the world being totally unaware of how you're impacting others and what you're actually doing. As Adam Smith said, the first thing you have to know is yourself. A man who knows himself can step outside himself and watch his own reactions like an observer. So, can you do that? Can you step outside? Can you step outside yourself and observe yourself? Or do you just kind of tromp through life unaware of what's actually motivating you deep, deep down in your heart? I think I struggle with this. But if I don't practice this actually stepping outside myself and observing myself, watching what I'm doing, watching my own reactions, then I don't really know myself. But there's kind of a good reason not to know yourself. What actually happens? What would actually happen if you really saw yourself and your own motivations and your own sharp edges really perfectly, really in focus? Well, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe put it this way: know thyself. If I knew myself, I would run away. In other words, if I really saw myself accurately, I wouldn't want to be with that person. I would want to run away. So I have to warn you, if you choose to take this journey with me for the next 6 weeks, there's going to be a lot of it you're not going to like. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you're going to see that you're going to kind of wish you didn't see. A lot of stuff you're going to know that you wish you didn't know about yourself. It's going to be painful and messy and uncomfortable. In fact, if all we were doing was facing the truth about ourselves, that might not be a good idea, because it might actually lead to utter despair. We might end up with like that guy in Ecclesiastes, who when he finally saw what life and himself and his own motives and his own thoughts were like, he cried out, utter meaninglessness. It's all meaningless. So truth by itself is not enough. But what if we also had the love and mercy and acceptance and power of God? We need both to truly flourish. If you truly saw your own nature without knowing God's nature, that truth would be too much to bear. But listen to our scripture for this morning. What Jesus said to the people of his day, what he says to people of all days, what he says to you and I this day in John chapter 8. Starting in verse 31, it begins this way. So Jesus was saying to those Jews who had believed him, if you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. They answered him, we are Abraham's descendants, and have never yet been enslaved to anyone. How is it that you say you will become free? So who are these people? These were people who already believed in Jesus. They already believed him. So they were Jews, they had the law, they had the scriptures. They already believed in Jesus. What more did they need? Jesus answered them, truly, truly, I say to you, everyone who commits sin is the slave of sin. And then dropping down to verse 36, so if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. You see, they were slaves and they didn't even know it. They had blind spots. He's telling them, you don't fully see the truth and you're not truly free. You're blindfolded. You don't even see yourselves accurately. But if you learn from me, then you will know the truth. And you can't set yourself free. I must make you free. We need to see ourselves clearly. But that alone can lead to depression and despair. We also need the power and the grace of God in order to have hope and live free and to play the role we were intended to play rather than the role that we settled for. We need the power of God in order for the truth to set us free rather than set us to despair. And so Jesus continues. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. So think about that word continue. It implies a journey. And when you're on a journey and you're going somewhere you haven't been before, you're going to be uncertain. You're not going to know everything. And most journeys have some rough spots in them. But it's going to be worth it. It's going to be exciting and it's going to be an adventure. To go on a journey, to actually get up and go, you need to want the joy of the adventure more than you want comfort and certainty. So in this new year, I want to choose growth and revelation over comfort and certainty. I don't want to stay where I am. I want to continue on. How about you? Are you willing to try to choose growth and revelation of God, personal growth, and the revelation of God over being comfortable and being certain? So, if you're with me, how do we begin? By examining our lives, by examining our assumptions about our lives and about the world, and letting Jesus wreck anything there that is false. So, because we would rather have personal growth and God's revelation over being comfortable and being certain, we are going to take a journey through the following ways we are tempted to avoid reality. My schedule, my politics, my psychology, my philosophy, my science, my religion. In other words, my whole worldview. And when I say I want Jesus to wreck it, that doesn't sound very good. But what I really mean is I want to replace in my life the world according to Langdon with the world according to Jesus. And notice I don't say science, I say my science. In other words, the way I use science functionally to actually avoid reality. Of course, science itself is about discovering a subsection, a part of reality. But I can use science to actually avoid seeing other realities that make me uncomfortable. And so it's the same thing with all of them, with my schedule, my politics, my psychology, my philosophy, my science, my religion. So again, I need to let you know what you're getting in for so you can decide if you want to try and start out on this journey. These are the topics, these are the places where we are going to try to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Is that what you want? But as I said before, I'm taking this journey with you. I actually don't know what we're going to end up with. This is not like I'm a tour guide and I'm taking you on this pre-packaged vacation along these stops where I've already been there 100 times before and it's all controlled and safe. Like, this is not a Disney ride. I'm jumping in the deep end with you. So I'm heading us out on this journey as a fellow learner, and I don't know what we're going to discover about ourselves. I only know that I trust Jesus, and I know that I would rather have spiritual growth and spiritual revelation over comfort and over certainty. Here's what I can promise you if you stick with us for the next 6 weeks. Our foundation will be the Scriptures. Our goal will be a more passionate, intimate, close relationship with Jesus Christ. We're going to look at ancient thinkers, people all the way up through the ages, especially Pascal, Kierkegaard, and Simone Weil. We're also going to look at the most recent discoveries in science and psychology and politics. We're going to be looking at TED Talk people and what they have to say. We're going to be open to all these voices to really try and get a grasp on what reality actually is. And a primary guide will be Eugene Peterson's book, A Long Obedience in the Same Direction. And we'll put links to that in the show notes. So next week we begin by a brutal, honest look at how we spend our time, our schedule. And this is not going to be about time management. This is going to be about how do we actually deceive ourselves about the way we're actually spending our time, and why are we spending our time the way we are. So speaking of schedules, I want you to put something in your schedule this week, which is some homework. Each week I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. And so this week, this is what I want you to do. 2 things. First, I want you to pray a particular prayer that I'm going to be praying this week with you. This prayer: God, I want to know the truth, whatever it is, and become the person you want me to be. Please give me the courage and the encouragement to work hard on this 6-week journey. And second, I want to challenge you to memorize and meditate on this scripture this week that we saw today in John chapter 8. To memorize this promise from Jesus. If you continue in my word, then you are truly disciples of mine, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. So let's do this in 2021. Let's do this together. Let's go. Amen.